Hotep fam, namaste. This is Minister Imhotep, the one who comes in peace. And I'm here with two of my brothers in the ministry and my brothers in spirit, quite literally my brothers in spirit, my brothers at InSpirit Truth Center, where we share that urban, inspirational, metaphysical messages of truth in order to touch people, provoke thought, and transform lives. I'm here with Minister Darren Woodard, aka Minister Djehuty, and also with Minister David Server Tavares, Minister Server. He's a minister, a server, and a minister. It's the same thing. It's a redundancy.
Indeed.
So, hey,
that's what makes it dope. So nice I had to do it twice.
Indeed. I thought that was a Kappa thing. I thought that was a Kappa thing.
I know nothing about that.
All right. So we're going to chop it up just a little bit here. We were talking about that term, urban, inspirational, metaphysics. Who exactly coined that? Where did that come from? Who coined the term? I know we've been using it for a minute.
That was KRS, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first time I heard it in KRS's book in 2003, Rumination.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the way that KRS, I often tell people, the way that KRS talked about it is not the way that we are interpreted. He was just talking about, because he's a metaphysician and using metaphysical teachings in an urban environment. Whereas what we have done is, along with, using it in an urban environment, obviously incorporating New Thought Truth principles into it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for me, the combination of the New Thought Truth principles, along with the hip hop, one of our 9 elements or 10 elements in the temple hip hop is street language. So that's why sometimes even on the Daily Social Light Card you hear me do the urban inspirational metaphysical translation, because we want to get into the language of being able to speak in a voice and a tone that me particularly, and big up to Dr. Rocco for helping me get my voice, because Dr. Rocco talked about anytime spirit calls you to either be a teacher, a counselor, a minister, spirit is calling you because you're there to speak to and for a certain group of people. So you have to speak the language that they speak. They don't need to hear you regurgitate what you heard in class, what you read in the book. You need to, speak a language. So that spoke directly to me, because as I tell people, I can have profane or explicit lyrics and words that you may hear. And I tell people respectfully, if my street language offends you, I'm probably not talking to you.
Right.
And you might need to just mind your fucking business. How about that part?
So, how about that part? So
street language.
Get you behind me, Satan.
Street language.
So speaking of that, since the urban inspirational metaphysical remix that we bring to it sometimes, should we codify that? Should we actually create a version of the scriptures to put it out there, our own remix?
Like I said, I'm always doing it, because again, I like to have just regular plain talk, and I think that's one of the things for me, just personally, like when I first went to Hillside, Amir, I'm gonna call him. Hillside, that I really appreciated that they weren't boxed into the way it had to sound, the way it had to be, and so yeah, I'm definitely with that, because again, like for me, I'm already doing it. I'm not doing it in a formal way, obviously, but yeah, I'm definitely down to do that.
Right.
What would that look like? What would it look like? I'm down with it, but what would it look like? Would it mean going from Genesis to Revelations?
I think we just start with the New Testament at first, but you could do whatever we want. But
Well, see, I think it could be like like maybe say we were doing this from the Trinity of Truth. Say if each of us had our favorite, let's say 7 scriptures, something like that. You know what I'm saying? It could be, or 10 scriptures, whatever case it is, and then each of us could pick whatever scripture that we want. It could be Old or New Testament. You know what I'm saying?
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying, Server. So as we're teaching, and we're quoting a scripture, we may I am it, urban inspirational metaphysical, to that translation of that scripture
Right,
that we're
right,
speaking.
right.
But at some point, we should document it
Right. That's
and
what I'm saying.
then
You have a text
begin
to be coming out
building
of
the
it.
whole thing. And I think as we grow this UIM
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, garner a movement, we can have some transcribers help us to transcribe it so that we're leaving something that can
Exactly.
speak to the people that come after us, because what
Exactly.
we're doing is bigger than us.
Right.
Yeah.
It's you know, they say it's bigger than
Well,
hip
I mean,
hop. This is bigger than us. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's that. I just never really thought about it. That's a huge undertaking, particularly
It's
if you're talking about doing
huge.
the whole Bible,
Mm-hmm.
because you know the Bible to me, you know, is always just a reference point. And you know, for me, I'm much more divine science than I am unity. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably obvious. Um, because
I
I
think
don't,
I'm a little more unity than I am divine science. I think the
oh,
two of you are more
for
religious science.
sure, for sure.
I don't even know if I'm either one, but yeah. But
But you know, so like for me again, you know, just thinking about the people that I've been ministering to, they don't really care whether it's coming from the Bible, whether it's coming from the Quran, Big Vita. They just want some good words. So well, I guess that's why I've never thought about actually having a text per se, because I think, you know, for me personally, even sometimes scripture can be a bit limiting,
mm-hmm.
because even though we know that we are new thought, just scripture itself. And for me, you know, I deal with a lot of unchurched, unmasked, unsynagogue people that
Right.
they don't want any of that. They just want, for me, that's why I lean on urban inspirational metaphysics and the 12 spiritual gifts. Because that's why I was talking about how you can have whatever your religion is, you can incorporate that. If you have no religion, you can still use those 12 powers. So that's why I am personally.
But how would
But
you
I also see the important, not the importance. Let me rephrase that. But I see the value
right.
in
Yeah, so do I. I see the
yeah,
value for sure.
transcribing so that it's you know that's why you have so many different
Got
translations.
the
A lot of
modern
people,
English version, you got the
right?
New International, you got
Because
this, and you
when
got that.
I noticed the
Amplified, I know you
spy
love, right.
always uses, not always, but heavily uses the King James version. You
Mm-hmm.
will very rarely hear me use the King James version
Right.
because I can't get with those thy, thee, though, them,
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
I can't do it.
exactly,
So I like
It's a
exactly.
that
tongue twister for me.
I like that Francis Bacon poetry that's in there.
Yeah.
Nah. Leave me alone
Nah,
with
see, I'm
But
just
Shakespeare.
rocking. Like, nah.
again, it's also because so many people were familiar with that version of it. Now, as Server pointed out, there are many who grown up who didn't go like we did, Sunday school, BTU, all this stuff, where you had these things pretty much beat into you, so you knew the scriptures. Many of these people are not that versed in it. So,
But
interestingly, one of the first ones that actually did something like that for me when I was in elementary school, I read Dick Gregory's Bible stories.
Mm.
And that actually got me to thinking about how, you know, you can take things and put it into urban vernacular and everything.
Yeah, and see,
I
I
think
like
there's
that
another
concept.
thing of heightened consciousness,
Hmm.
not just urban, but urban and heightened consciousness. Like when, you know, every time I mention name,
Hmm.
you know, I want to put emphasis on when it's speaking about the way or the character that we say that, because I don't want people to think that the power is in saying Yahshua or
Right.
Jesus, you know.
Right.
So there's some power, you know, in making sure, even if it's in parentheses, you know, just making sure, like when I do the amplified, one of my favorite scriptures, Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, God's way of doing and being right, the attitude and character of God. That really crystallizes that thought to a way where there's no ambiguity. What
Right.
it's saying is like, it's very clear.
Right.
And now it's something, and that's what Server does when he gives the UIM version. He makes it crystal clear. There
Hmm.
is no confusion. Oh, I get what that's saying now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Hey,
I guess
hey,
that's part
so
of the process we'll go through as well is how do we even define you and I?
right.
Well, yeah. Urban
Well,
inspirational metaphysics. You know, what is metaphysics? What is urban? What is
right.
inspirational? I
Exactly.
think, you know, it's
And
kind
then
of self-defined.
right, and then and to even add on to that, I tell people, you know, it's how do you tap into the divinity in you so you can experience life more abundantly? That's what it really
Yes.
is.
Mhm.
Because as I said, I've never met anyone, no matter what their station in life is, that doesn't want to experience life more abundantly. So
Right.
if that's where all of humanity is, again, that's where the 12 gifts come in. That you could use these 12 gifts. I don't care whether you're atheist or whatever. If you activate these 12 gifts, you'll be able to experience life more abundantly. Try it out. If it don't work, go back to what you was doing. That's what I tell people. Try
Right.
it out with an open heart mind, with some consistency and some expectation. You know, like I tell people, when I started coming to Hillside, I came in not so much as a skeptic, but I was like, let me see whether this shit works.
Let me try it. Prove
Once
it.
I found that it worked, and I tell people the first thing that gave me affirmation was a mental health treatment physically. I hurt my back. And we was in, excuse me, that's when I was in Lessons in Truth. And had just done the denials and affirmation chapter. And I was doing the denials and affirmations, and my back was killing me. And I thought I was going to go to the hospital. I was doing the denials and affirmations, went to sleep doing the denials and affirmations. When I got up, I woke up kind of gingerly because I thought my back was going to be hurting. Man, my back wasn't hurting at all. I was like, oh, snap, this shit worked. That was the, you know what I'm saying? Like, from that point forward, I've been all in like, yo, this actually works.
Ironically, that's how so many from the old school, new school pioneers, new thought pioneers, they came.
MB and all of them, yeah.
MB quick, they came looking for healings.
For healing, right?
Bill Moore, Dr. Barber.
Yeah. Dr. Barber, yeah.
But you know, and to be honest with you, my healing wasn't a physical.
Right.
My healing was more emotional and psychological, you know, all of that. But the healing came. And I found liberty. I literally, and even more so now, as I delve into it even more now, and you know, whether it's salvation, okay, and the way that the churches define salvation, but really, what Jesus talked about is that liberation when you understand who you are.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's so
captives free at liberty.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I do want to say one thing, because as we're doing this collectively, I think we should also be aware of what we're doing individually that will bring the collective into awareness. I know with Minister Imhotep, you know, he's got the Minister Imhotep page. Within the next few weeks, the Think a New Thought page is going to go live on YouTube. And I'm going to be putting out posts on all the different platforms, some shorter and then longer teachings on the Think a New Thought YouTube page. So there's going to be shorts on YouTube Shorts. There's going to be Reels. There's going to be TikTok. You know, all of those things, 30-second, 60-second shorts. I've got them all written out and, you know, working on them. And I'm going to deliver those that is going to, and what I really want to do is every time I'm going to provoke a new thought, encourage a new way of thinking, seeing the scriptures from a new light, from a new vantage point, so that it can relate to us individually and not just be an historical document, but be a document that liberates us today, the here and now, that the kingdom is upon us, the kingdom is within us. And that's what I wanted to continue to get out there. And then I think collectively, we can break into conversations, whether it's something that you started. Server, Byron told me about the conversation that you and him have been having about you representing him, which I think is dope, and I told him that. But bigger than that, that conversation that Issues and what's the other brother's name? Oslo had, you know, dispute about the gods. I think, you know, you was talking about, you know, having a blown out, so for lack of a better term, a documentary on what that means or what have you. But I think that would be a dope discussion for the Trinity of Truth as well.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah.
You know, from the 5%, you know, what does that mean from an Islam, you know, and so with that, we're not locked in on, as you said, Servant, I quote you all the time, and you just said it earlier. If you practice these principles, I don't care what your religion is. You'll be a better Christian. You'll be a better Muslim. You'll be a better Buddhist. You'll be a better atheist.
Oh, yeah.
It don't
Oh,
matter
yeah.
what it is that you're practicing.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
Exactly. And mind you, in my 21 years, I've come across I've actually dealt with Satanists. You know what I'm saying? Because for the Satanists that I know of, they didn't look at Satan as evil.
right.
They looked at Satan as just another power, and it was hyped about the evil, da da da. But as I tell people, that's the thing that I knew in ministry school. Your religion is none of my business. I don't care enough to care what your religion is. I ain't trying to save your soul or none of
Right.
that kind of stuff. I'm simply trying to teach some stuff that I know works for me, and because I know that there's a oneness. If it can work for me, it can work for you if you choose to. Just like even in hip hop, which is why I use the hip hop Declaration of Peace. I'm always looking for principles because principles go past the personality. Principles flatten everything out. You know what I'm saying? Principles put everybody on that same plane. So whether you're Cool Herc or whether you're the young boy that's down the street rapping, if you are following the culture, then you are held accountable to them same principles. Now,
How are you?
obviously
I
because
know
it's such
this
a
the
young
answer to this
document,
question. I know the answer
excuse
to
me,
this question, but how are you defining hip hop?
um, those that for me again is those that understand that we're using these ancient elements. We use 10 elements: breaking, MCing, graffiti, DJing, beatbox, fashion, language, knowledge, entrepreneurialism, and health and wellness. So we define hip hop as a full culture with different elements inside the culture. And as I tell people, our view on hip hop is obviously not the only view on hip hop. But what I say as David Servant Tavares, I got a 30-year track record of it being positive, productive, progressive, and I've helped to raise three dynamic daughters and three sensational sons using them same principles along with true principles. So that's my version of hip hop. And based on the hip hop Declaration of Peace, again, those principles are principles that are agreed upon by the collective. It's not a one person thing,
Right.
which is why, I talk about principles over personalities. That poster, that's a teaching tool with the personality, but it's really designed for you to read the principles. And the sad part for me is that there's so many people, every organization I work with, I introduce that document to them, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But a number of times, because it's such a young document, we just don't really give it the weight that it'll have 50 years from now. You know what I'm saying? If we continue to do the work that we are supposed to do, because at some point, let's have a hip hop community, hip hop nation, whatever, there has to be something that's beyond the personalities of the people that have been around. That's where, Temple Hip Hop, Zulu Nation, all these, other, they've been around, but they won't be able to maintain because the personalities get too big. And that's what's happening,
Right.
unfortunately, with our brother Chris. Like, the Temple of Hip Hop as a movement don't really have no juice, really. I mean, just keeping it real.
It has to be bigger than individuals, and that was
Right.
part of the conversation about how do we sort of bring some codification to urban inspirational metaphysics. How do we leave documents for when we're gone so that it can continue, or and people reinterpret it based off of where they are at their particular time, because we know that spirit is dynamic, it's not static, it keeps moving. But I believe you said one thing one time, that we're the new thought of new thought. New thought
We
at
are.
one point in the early 20th century, late 19th century, that was revolutionary when you had people like Quigley and those folks, and um, religious science, Mary Baker Eddy, and how they were thinking about things. But when you read it, it sounds so stilted and stodgy and irrelevant to anything that we're going through right now. So how do we keep that movement going, keep it dynamic, keep it evolving on, so that, heaven forbid, neither one of us check out, transition during our time, but there's something that's established that continues on. And that's what, when you refer to the hip hop Declaration of Peace, it's something that's substantial and tangible that you can refer to. And so I think
Right.
there's something important that, as Djehuty said, there may be some value in creating some of these things.
Yeah. And I like what you was talking about, like with the Dick Gregory Bible story. You know what I'm saying? I like that concept, doing different stories as opposed to the whole
Mhm.
Bible. Because the whole Bible, again, it's 66 books. It's a bunch of shit that I ain't never read and ain't ever
Right.
gonna read.
And there's
You know
stuff
what I'm
that
saying?
should be in there that isn't in there.
Right. So, so for me, that's the thing that again with Reverend Carol Payne. Reverend Carol Payne was most certainly more divine science than anything, and she used to always talk about how because people get so caught up in the Bible that like I remember when she talked about the concept how we talk about how we are children of the Most High God. Like we're not children of God. We are one with God. We're the same as God.
Oneness.
Because the child can be separated from his parent, but we could never be separated from God. So it was just different concepts. I remember that and the first class I had in ministry school was with Reverend Carol for Divine Mind and Dr. Charlene Holmes for New Thought Christian. So at the same time, it was really dope the way I started with. I got so hyped. I was like, okay, I see how this is moving and whatnot. But even in the midst of that, that's why as opposed to 2.5, 3 years, it took me 3.5 years because I wasn't on no real plan. I was just seeing what it was. In fact, I didn't even know what I was going to stay when I first came because it was like, I don't know how they're going to be.
I took the sightseeing tour through.
Right. And then like
Barbara
I said,
had to challenge me, but baby, you get out of here. What?
That's why I talk about it was Djehuty. It was Djehuty that really started all the the forward movement and when I had lessons, I mean how I use my Judy, I meant to ask you, how was Reverend Al?
What do you mean? How?
Reverend Al Shelman.
You said how is he or how was he?
He passed on?
No. He hasn't passed on that I know of.
Yeah. How is he? I was just thinking about.
I don't know. I haven't spoken with him. I haven't spoken with him in a minute.
Okay. But I remember I had him for how I use truth. I used to come to the class. Sometimes we'll be building and everything, like Reverend Server. I'll be like, nah, boy, I ain't doing all that. But then, like I said, Reverend Carl invited me to the open house, and almost 25 years ago to this day, and I was like, okay, let me see what it is. And that's how Reverend Carl was. She was like, if it doesn't fit you, David, you don't have to stay. Just take a couple class and see what it is, and the rest is literally history. I tell people, God got jokes. That's all I can tell people. God got jokes. That's all I can really tell people, because to this day, it trips people out that David Tavares actually did 3.5 years of ministry school. Like, how did you survive? Because I know how your ass is, Dave. How did you even make it through? And I told him I almost didn't at the end. The ambush, that's a whole other story, but yeah.
It's so funny. That's how I found myself, my voice. I often talk about going through school, growing up. I wasn't like you guys. I wasn't studious. I didn't have the best grades. I was probably the worst student.
I wasn't studious at all.
Really? Okay. I was right next door to them kids on the short yellow bus. I mean, that's where I was at. Okay. But something clicked in ministry school because it was something I was interested in. And
sit right there.
And once you find your interest, the world opens up. Everything opens up. And it just seemed like everything was so, it was like, when they say you're in a zone in basketball, it just, everything opened up. Everything was clear to me. Everything was so easy. And that's why I ran through it. I mean, I literally ran through it. And even Denise was like, I can't believe how you have taken to school like this. Because, I mean, we grew up together. She knew how I was.
And yeah, me, man, I can tell people I was never the studious type, but I always if it was something that needed to be done, I always felt like I was smart, even if I wasn't. I felt like that. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of it was just the sheer, and that's what I tell people when I look back, I definitely just see the grace that I was under, because I was doing shit that I had no right to be doing, like at all, like for real.
Wait till the book comes out. Wait until the Djehuty book comes out. My son named it From the Projects to the Pulpit.
All right. See, I must admit, I did always enjoy learning. I've always
it shows. I mean, it even shows in your delivery. There is a more, I don't want to say scientific, but there is a real difference in the way that you deliver a message and the way that I deliver a message. And that's what I love about this Trinity.
Always be right.
You
Everybody
know,
got their own voice.
Server delivers it differently. Server, one of your people told you your friend is more like a Baptist minister than they said. Did someone tell you?
Right. Mubi. Yeah. Like, yeah. But you know, to me, again, I think that like I always remind us what we even the concept of urban inspirational metaphysics. Definitely, you know, I'm definitely down for us to do some stories and stuff like that, because like I said, I do that anyway, just for me, because you know, big up to my brothers at the city of Atlanta, because you know these are regular blue collar dudes, and I'll be trying to talk over their head or talk down to them.
I love that.
But you know what I'm saying? And the way that they have requested the entire year, like the entire year, for them to have requested these lessons lets me see that. Because again, you know, black men dealing with spirituality, that's something different anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Powerful, man.
Well, actually, it's different because it's going back to our original. We were just reclaiming what we've always done.
And you know, and so to be able to do that at work, again, my main thing is to keep it real simple, keep it real regular, and always give the scripture, and I always tell them, that's the thing, don't take my word for nothing, because you may read the scripture solo, and Spirit may tell you something completely different. Listen to that. Don't listen to me. Listen to that. You know what I'm saying?
But one thing that you said, Server, that I look at and I say, we've done something. Within Spirit, look at all the men that have been a part of InSpirit.
Indeed.
And when you look at a ministry, men that were and have been involved with InSpirit, I look at Leo, who came in by way of his girlfriend then, who was friends with Jermaine.
Okay.
And she's gone. Leo's still with us.
Right.
Jermaine came in by way of his girlfriend, and I was doing the marital counseling. Jermaine is still connected. She's nowhere to be found.
Right.
You know, so the way that we have been able to touch brothers, and when I see what you're doing with, you know, what you're doing with on the job, and I think that we have all three distinct voices, and that's why that Trinity of Truth, you know, we can reach people from different areas, you know, so that's why I was like, the individual and the collective, all of it coming together, whether it's Think and Do Thought or Minister Imhotep or hip hop ministries, or, you know, all of it coming together is going to be, you know, really what's going to be needed.
Yeah, it's Wu-Tang. It's the Raekwon, you know, Space, RZA, Genius.
Method Man, exactly.
And add on to that, Imhotep, that's why we got to be outside. That's why we got to be in these streets, because just like Wu, everything starts at a grassroots level before it gets to that other level.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like a number of times when I'm out, brothers are not coming to me and saying, Server, I need to come to you for counsel. But they'll come to me for counsel. You know what I'm saying? Because
whatever you call it, rose by any other name.
Right, exactly. And what I appreciate about black men is that they allow themselves to be vulnerable with me, because they know that as the minister, first of all, there's a certain level of confidence, that you know is not going to get out there, because I am the minister, and what we say is between us. You know what I'm saying? And you know, the also just helping them. Like I tell people, one of my superpowers is I'm just a really good reminder. Like I don't really say no new shit, but I remind people of what they know to be true. You know what I'm saying? And that's what most certainly a lot of black men, because you know a number of times we may be church hurt or mosque hurt or whatever the case, so we done with the religion because of what done with God because of the religion. But what I offer people, that your relationship with God is not based on religion. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I believe religion should help you get a close relationship with God. That's the point of religion.
Right.
But you know, so I know we're certainly on to something as we codify. Like I said, we want to, you know, because I remember before, Djehuty, we had talked about doing lessons in truth, like an urban inspirational, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely down. My whole thing is that we have to make sure that we are consistent,
There you go.
because like anything else, we have to build it. It's not like it's going to be a quick, and particularly,
Process.
right. And yeah, for me, I'm committed to doing what I do until I leave the planet Earth. As I tell people, I don't never know how big it's going to be or whatever, but the work itself, which is why, again, me even going up listening to and watching some of the old InSpirit tapes and lessons, the one thing I'm proud about is when I put those lessons on, and I'm walking around in the house or doing whatever, I'm hearing them lessons. I'm like, yo, that shit is on
It still
point.
resonates.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, yo, that was a good lesson, sir. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, excuse
And
me.
that's why when I was asking about the question of urban, we say it's obvious, but still you have to think about those things, because for so many times we've used that word euphemistically to mean so many
Yeah.
other things. You hear urban radio. You hear, are you talking about geography? Are you talking about, is it euphemistic for black? Is it a certain
Right.
age demo that you're looking at that you consider urban? But all those things, we think about who it is that we think that this message is for. Who are we targeting, to use the marketing terms, and who do we think we can
Yeah.
reach? Then we put it out there. Not that
And,
it can't reach everybody, but
right. Yeah.
most
But
times
I'm
you
thinking
think
of
about
that.
somebody in
I'm
mind.
definitely thinking. I'm definitely thinking.
Give me 1 second.
Black
Keep
people.
going. I got to go
Mhm.
grab something.
I'm definitely thinking black people in the city.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. However, what I do believe, and again, I'm just basing it on me, and I tell people this all the time. Like, I don't know white people outside of hip hop. Like, the only white
hmm
people I know are involved in hip hop.
hmm
Um, I am unapologetically, intentionally in a black world.
hmm
Not that I don't deal with white people on a peripheral, but in my personal life and in my professional life, like at the city of Atlanta, and the white people working with us, it's all black. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
So when even when I'm in hip hop environments, it's mostly black. So if it's white people or Latinos or Asians around, they're on the black energy. You know what
But
I'm
it's a,
saying?
it's a mindset that it's
Right,
into, and
right.
that's
So
why it
so
even transcends that. Yeah.
right. So it for me. It could be anyone, but when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking of people that are probably not going to go to church, black people that probably go to the church, to the mosque, the synagogue, and yet they do want to find out about, how do I tap into the God in me? I know it's something in me, you know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking that. And but I don't also think that it's that you have to live in the city per se. Like, again, we talk
Exactly.
about the
I
city being
mean, it's a
a
mindset.
metaphor. Right,
Right. COVID has changed that.
right, for sure.
People are not even living in cities anymore, but they're connected and working through cities through technology.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I'm more Pan-African in my thought on it, in terms of, it's urban, but as I say, I'm thinking black first, and that's why I'm always going to tap into something from Africa, something from the
yeah,
Caribbean, and something from our history. How do we relate it? Because it's the basis of all history and culture anyway. So if I
right.
tap into that, if it resonates there, it's going to reach beyond. I've found that, for some reason, I don't know why, a lot of folks in India are following Minister Imhotep. So it's like,
Mm,
you never know where it's going to land and where it's going to reach, and what seat, what ground that seed is going to fall upon, and where it's
yeah,
going to germinate. Our
right.
job is just to put it out there.
Yeah, and and again for me, as I talk about the people that identify themselves
Right,
as being a part of hip hop community,
right,
hip hop culture, hip hop nation, whatever name you want to call it. But the main thing is that you identify yourself as being a part of this community. Now, where you are in this community, that depends. Because again, I know the way that I talk about hip hop is different than the way that most people, which why when I'm talking to my peers at 1960 to 1980 generation,
right,
the first few minutes of the conversation is getting them to go past rap music. Like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Let's move past rap music. And I don't care who you like, who you don't like, blah, blah, but who you are as a person. So, for example, like the mayor of Atlantic City, Marty Small,
hmm
20 years ago, he brought me and KRS to Atlantic City for Stop the Violence March and Rally, not for a rap concert, but Stop the Violence March and Rally, because this is when he was a city council person, right? I'm like, okay, 20 years ago, Marty, you brought KRS and myself there, not for a concert,
Right.
because of some crisis that was going on in the city at the time with the gang, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, that same mindset that you brought us, now that you're mayor, you can again, I'm not expecting you to do anything, but connect me with the people that work with young people. So
Right.
we could do a train, I could do a teach the type of thing, whatever it is. And it's cool to do an event, but as I tell people, an event is a one-time
One
thing.
time. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So like when I do something at a school, I'm going to leave the teacher with the PowerPoint that I have and all that, and you can
The
continue.
curriculum.
Right.
Right.
You can continue to build on that.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's about connecting our young people to the culture, not trying to make them rappers or DJs. We're trying to use my children. I have 3 daughters, 3 sons, no rappers. No disrespect to the rappers. But as much as I love rap and MC myself, I never try to make my children, you know what I'm saying, be that, because at the end of the day, we want our children to be their best self.
The
And
best
that's what hip
self.
hop, and that's what hip hop encourages you to be your
Right.
best self. You
Now,
see what I'm
that's
saying?
why I actually asked about the definition of hip hop as well, because
Yeah.
I know that the acronym that we use sometimes, I want to put that out there as well. Higher infinite power, healing our people.
And you know what? So many people are using that, and only Professor Griff is the only one I hear that gives me credit. But I tell
Uh-huh.
people, I mean, you know, that's something that when Spirit whispered that into my spirit, I was like, oh, that's it. Because
Uh-huh.
out of all the things that it is, I know for me, because, you know, this is when I knew I was going to more than likely be leaving the Temple of Hip Hop, because
Right.
Chris and I were just seeing things differently. And as I tell people, you know, he's the founder, so I never wanted to try to take the temple. Be like, no, this is my. But at the end of the day, for me, Nation Time Syndicate. At
Now,
the end of the day, you
now
know,
you actually were on the road with Chris, KRS-One, the teacher,
the
the
teacher.
blast
Big up to the
master,
teacher.
the
Big up
blast
to the
master,
teacher.
the one and only, the inimitable.
No
Uh,
doubt.
But how was that experience on the road? Because you actually recorded even on the Get Right, Stay Right album. So how
Keep
was
right.
the
Keep right.
experience? Keep right, like the signage. Keep right. How was
Exactly.
that experience, and but why did you trade it in?
It was an amazing experience. It was more than I ever thought. And I tell people, you know, jokingly but seriously, like when Karis, when me and Karis had the conversation, he said God told him that I wasn't just a minister for hip hop in Atlanta, that I was an international minister of hip hop culture. And I was like, what is that? He was like, Server, yo, Server, there's gonna be a day when people around the world gonna be coming in, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yo, you the teacher. We waiting for you. He was like, no, I'm a celebrity. I need somebody that can walk in their authority without being a celebrity. So I was telling you, I represent the everyman. So it was
Mm-hmm.
an amazing experience. But when we got on the road and KRS found out that I was an MC and a DJ, I started doing more stuff. I ain't get no pay raise or nothing, but you know what I'm saying? I just started doing more work and shit. But it was cool. It was amazing. It was great. Me, you know, being MC Dave T from high school. Anybody that knows me know KRS to this day is still my GOAT when it comes to MCs. There's
Of
nobody
course.
above KRS to me. I don't
I'm
care what
sorry, I
nobody says.
lied. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
You know what I'm saying? Period. So that was amazing. But I also, you know, reference that by telling people that I was 38 years old, married with 6 children. So I never had the mindset of running around playing hip hop. Even when I was on the Keep Right CD, which you mentioned, I'm on 5 songs and a solo song, a spoken word piece, and all that. But when that came up, people was like, "Yo, sir, you should be trying to." I'm like, "Dude, I'm 40 years old. If I was trying to be a rapper, I'd have done it 20 years ago. I just love being an MC. Like, I'm not trying to make a career out of it, but I will always be rapping because I'm a poet first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? But when it was time to switch, and I tell people all the time, you seen the movie The Wiz, right?
Uh-huh. I won't be
So you know
seen
how
to
when they get
leave.
to how when they get to Emerald City and it's all mean green, everything
There you
flowing,
go.
everybody, yeah,
There you
yeah, yeah.
go.
Then the Wiz
Red.
come on and say, dun, 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 dun. Oh,
Right.
it's red. I'm like, okay, but we gotta be red, red. Dun, dun, dun. That's how Chris was. Every few months, we was on a
Double
new
change.
plan. I was like, yo, we can't keep switching up. You can do that because you KRS-One and you literally can do that. You know what I'm saying? But a movement can't move like that. So,
Right.
you know, if I'm going to really be who you told the world I am, and you know all that, because you know Chris was most certainly extremely supportive of me becoming Minister Server to the public, which is why I put on the CD and all that kind of stuff. However, when it came time to really move in a movement, we had a different point of view, because my whole thing is, if you really want to move it away from them, let's move it away from them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And Chris really wasn't ready to do that, and I wasn't ready to run around and keep doing the same thing. So we parted ways, amicably. It wasn't no drama, no negativity. And you know, I was like, you know, as long as you being a teacher and I'm being a minister, then we'll always work together. And that's where we are right now.
Indeed, indeed. And Minister Djehuty, you were assistant pastor. Was it assistant or associate? What was the actual title?
Assistant.
I have no idea.
He was the number. I remember it well.
But he was the number 2. You were the number 2 at the Hillside.
That was that guy. That was that guy. That was that dude.
Chapel and Truth Center. Dr. Barbara King, the legendary Dr. Barbara King, and you were the heir apparent to take over. What led to your decision to step away from that trajectory to create InSpirit Truth Center instead?
I was silenced. I was put on a 90-day silence, like
Malcolm.
Like Malcolm was with Elijah Muhammad.
Chickens came home to roost. Okay.
You know, God bless her, and you know, may she continue to rest in power. When you get a vision, and she came to San Diego and said that she had a vision that I was supposed to, almost like you were saying with KRS, that I was supposed to be the person to replace her. And we talked about it, and we talked through that. But I don't think that she was prepared for the backlash that she was going to receive from some of her inner circle. You know, you bring someone in to be your heir apparent, and now you're giving them power that is usurping some of the power and some of the
influence. Wait a minute now, I've been here 20 years now.
Right. And that didn't go over well. And so they used every opportunity, but at the end of the day, it was time. It was time for me to move on. It was time for me to move on because some of the things that we talk about today, touching people, provoking thought, and transforming lives, she threw that away. There's so many different things. And I just knew that she told me that she wanted me to lower the demographics, bring in a different grouping.
Yeah,
right. And so that's when we went hip hop with it, and we brought in KRS. And that's when all ish hit the fan. You know, that's when some of and I'll never forget, and that's how I met you, Stanley. Do you remember this? One service, I said, I found, and what prompted this, Prentice Rogers, who was the sports writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He came to me one Sunday after service and said, yo, Reverend Darren, put me to use. You know, I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, whatever you need, let me get involved. I really want to I love what you're doing here. And I want to get this ministry going into another, you know, the direction that you're heading in. And that hit me. And I was like, tithing your time. And so in the pulpit, I ask people to tithe of their time, their talents, their gifts. It's not just the financial tithe. I need your talents. We need to get this ministry out there. And when I said that, I think that's when I met you. That's when I met Tony New. That's when I met Bronwyn. That's when that's when I met so many people that have been on this movement. Because what I wanted to do is really do what Dr. Barbara brought me in to do. And I knew it wasn't a one-person thing. It wasn't about me. It was about others that have gifts and talents and putting that to use so that we can spread this truth message. Well, when I did that, some of those, that inner circle, saw a new circle. And they weren't a part of that circle. And, you know, that was the demise. So it was time for me to move on.
Okay. It was in its divine order, divine right time.
Yeah, right. And no, I have none. You know, the way that it was handled, I probably would have done it differently. But I knew that, you know, when the timing is there, when it's not right, when it's time for you to move on, you move on. And that's what I did.
Indeed,
I
indeed.
know Server was like, nah, you don't want to do
Ain't
that.
time yet.
Hey, man, you know what? Let me tell my version of it, right? I'm still in ministry school, right? But because of now, I didn't know that part as far as Dr. Barber was talking about a young demographic, because that's one of the issues the Hillside is still having right now. Getting young
Many
people,
churches.
which is why I spoke to Reverend Nicole, who's supposed to be starting to head up the young adult ministry. But for me, because of the way that we was moving, the momentum that we was on, I was kind of like, I don't know, Djehuty, you might want to maybe hang on for a minute. I mean, not necessarily forever, but I'm glad Djehuty didn't listen to me, because again, you know, Spirit talks to all of us, and that's the thing. I think that all of us that are true students, by the time we get to the level of going to ministry school, most certainly finishing ministry school, I think we are keen to actually know what God sounds like talking to us. You know what I'm saying? So it's really a matter of having the courage to be obedient in that. And you know, I remember when Djehuty was telling me that he was starting InSpirit, and I was like, "Yo, I'm with you. Like whatever it is, like I'm right there." And I remember even having a conversation with Dr. Barber, um, because you remember Djehuty, after it happened when Djehuty, you know, changed his name and then had the sermon, and he had his crew up there, and you know, kind of stuff.
Bum
Man,
rush yourself.
that shit was so wild. Because now, mind you, I'm still just coming back and forth. I'm still running around with Chris. And I came back, and Dr. Barber wanted to meet with me, and she pretty much was saying, "Where you at? You over here? You over there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm over here, I'm over there, I'm over there.
I'm
I'm doing
everywhere.
what you said, Dr. Barber. I remind, I was like, Dr. Barber, you talked about taking the truth off the hill.
Right.
And that's what I do. I was like, I will always be a member of Hillside, but I'm not here to build a Hillside. Hillside's good, but I agree with what you said. And for me in hip hop, as I was telling you, there's a lot of people that ain't never coming to church. They ain't coming to Hillside of nowhere.
Right.
But we still want to share that truth with them. So she was like, okay, baby. But that still didn't mean that she didn't diss me a few times publicly. But as I tell people, I never let Dr. Barber's personality affect what I was doing. I never was there for that. So I never took it personal, because she's an older black woman. I got plenty of aunties and whatnot that be just dissing, and you just take it, you know, like
Just
I
take
like
it.
this newer generation. You know, they
Right.
may be going back and forth. Whereas our generation, like, let me just be
Yes,
quiet. And,
ma'am.
you know what I'm saying? Whereas though these new kids, they kind of different with it.
Now, speaking of this new generation and new technology and new media and new everything, we in spirit seem to be a little bit ahead of the curve, well, a lot ahead of the curve, because we de-emphasized the whole halls and walls and all of that, the need to be in those things. And then uh, just with the COVID, the pandemic, that just accelerated everybody sort of going to that model.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's been a minute since we actually have been in a physical location. We basically a church or a fellowship without walls. Is there a plan? Do you see us in spirit going back into a center at this point, or doing anything, or do you will we continue in the virtual and get more, even more virtual?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. What's his name? Jamal, that's over at New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Bryant.
Right. Uh-huh.
I saw him
Birth. Uh-huh.
do an interview or one, you know, a clip,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about we're losing the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So what Service said, trying to get them in a building.
Right.
He said, you know, we've got to reach them where they're reachable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the internet. And he says, so many people now, they have a Facebook page and they're
Mm-hmm.
even streaming on Facebook. He said, but what about TikTok?
Right.
You know, what about, Instagram? What about some of these other platforms? He says, we're losing the ability to reach the masses because we're thinking an old way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, to both those questions, yes, I see us having a place where we get together, but I don't see that as an every Sunday thing. I
Right.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if y'all do, I'll tell you this, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, I've done that. and don't want to repeat it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat it because I remember the last time that we went back, the iterations, and we went back. Bobby and Allende came to me. That's when we had that little church building. You remember on the south side,
On
near the
Buffington.
Chick-fil-A plant.
On Buffington, yeah.
Right,
Buffington, yeah.
right. And it's one thing to say, yes, let's do this. It's another thing to support it and move it along every Sunday.
Right.
And, when the onus is on you, to do it, I'm going to be there. There was, the support just wasn't consistent of people doing things. So I have to, understand that for me, I don't see that as a part of my future.
Right.
I will participate if someone wants to take that on, but it's not a part of my future. But what is, every so often, maybe once a quarter, we get together and celebrate. I want to take this thing on the road, a Celebrate Your Life conference, and move it around and not just be in Atlanta. And that's where I think Trinity and Truth, Hip Hop Ministries, Minister Imhotep, Think a New Thought, we can all, bring it all together and then start moving this around. I'm doing a speaking engagement in April in New York. I got to be honest with you, Denise, right before I was asked, Denise was like, they haven't asked you to come back to Antioch in a while. I said, really, I don't, if they ask me because that's my home, I'll go back. But I don't want to be one of those guys that's going around speaking in other churches. I want to do something where we're putting together conferences and things like that and moving it around where we're speaking to people that want to be spoken to in the language that we speak. I don't want to bring it to, an Antioch Baptist church where it can be received, but I want to really put together productions that we can go out and really touch people, give them music that is going to be different than what they would get, in a normal praise and worship in a church. I want to give them talk. I want Server to be able to say, yo, you know what the fuck I'm talking about, and not ruffle anyone's feathers.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We can do that if we have a control setting, and that's where I see it for me.
Right.
Right, and with that same thing being said, that's exactly the concept of when I started the Food for the Spirit, holistic hip hop experience. That's exactly what that is, and that's something that I'm already in conversation now for 2025 to do it in different cities. Because what I'm telling people is that, like people, especially my peer group, they see me doing different things, and I tell them Atlanta has allowed me to do these things because the community supports it. So I don't mind coming to any place, doing anything, but I can't just show up in your city. I can't just bum rush the city. There has to be that foundation there. So there's a couple of people, like I'm doing something in Cincinnati, the Food for the Spirit in Cincinnati, doing one in Chicago, someone doing one in Florida. But these are people that I'm telling them that I'm gonna come in and do my part. But the infrastructure has to be
you need to help me set that up, right?
Right. I'm going to host it and do a 10, 15, 20-minute metaphysical lesson in the middle of it. But the main thing with the Food for the Spirit is that it's a family-friendly event. Like there's not enough hip-hop family-friendly events. So I tell people with Food for the Spirit, you can bring your grandchildren and your grandparents, and they won't feel away. You know what I'm saying about it.
You're the dopest hip-hop grandpop. So
hey, come on, man. Say it loud.
But I think there's one other element. As we move this thing around, we are really moving in a place where we're touching people, provoking thought, and transforming lives.
Yeah.
And it's not about, right now, if someone put a gun to my head, or not even a gun to my head, what are you? I am. That doesn't mean I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Hindu. But if you ask me, what do you? I follow the ways of Jesus. That's what I'm following, the teachings of Jesus.
Right.
I don't want to put it, into a box.
Right.
And my lessons have got to communicate that and got to articulate that Jesus was bigger than a denomination or a religion. His teachings were something that were liberating. And it wasn't, when the people say that Jesus is the only way. When did he say only?
Mm-hmm.
He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, but he didn't say I am the only way.
Right.
The way is the only way. The
Right.
way, and he taught a way. But where did he learn that way?
Right.
All
Right.
past that.
And see, that's the thing that I appreciate about the way that Imhotep breaks it down. That's why I call him the Dr. Rocco of hip hop, because that's what was dope about being in Rocco's class. Like Rocco broke down a lot of stuff that a lot of Christians, they just simply have a Western perspective on the Bible.
Right.
And like I'm not sure Imhotep, whether you heard Dr. Rocco talk about the Immaculate Conception.
I have. Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, that would blow most Christians' mind to hear him talk about it in that way. And I mean, even the way he talks about the resurrection, like again,
Right.
as Rocco said, the way that he teach on Sunday is not the way he's teaching in class.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So in those classrooms, I appreciate it personally that Rocco gave a lot of insight. And mind you, this is when he was first writing Matthew, the book, like the four gospels. He was in a process. In fact, our class was kind of helping to flesh some things out.
Right.
But I think that's extremely helpful, particularly for those of us that are on the New Thought side of New Thought, because my saving grace in these past 21 years is that I'm hip hop. Like I tell people, if you ask what I am, I'm gonna say I'm a higher heavenly power healing our people, and yet I teach the metaphysical teachings of Jesus, because as I tell people, whether you're studying Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, Jesus teaches on all three of the major religions. So it's not about me trying to again convert you to anything. It's about bringing some light to where you say you are. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of Muslims, they don't understand that Isa is Jesus. Like they haven't made that connection. They don't understand that Jesus is the most quoted prophet in the Quran. A lot of Muslims haven't heard that. But that's what I tell people about Minister Farrakhan. If you never heard Minister Farrakhan preach Jesus, you ain't heard Jesus preach. Minister Farrakhan gets in with Jesus. And that will surprise a lot of Muslims. But because I came up in the nation before I, stepped off, like I have a tendency to do, it was just a matter of learning how, for me, and again, big up to Rocco, because I knew that I went to ministry school for Nation Time Syndicate. That's it. I wasn't even thinking Athens, Georgia, or Macon. I was thinking Atlanta, Georgia.
Yep.
But because God is God, that's what he took care of us. But so for me, it was always about, that person-to-person type of thing. Like I tell people, most of my work is done more one-on-one than collectively. And, big up to, Djehuty for having a physical place. That never was Spirit never gave me that. Open up a church, like never. In fact, what I love about the concept of Jesus teaching is that he was running around with his crew teaching, and people was talking shit. He had to bounce, and you know what I'm saying? It's like that concept for me, was like, yeah, I could do that. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
I could do that.
Indeed.
I still have my 12 disciples. In fact, when I was on the road, I used to mess with five roots. I used to call them Petros. Like, maybe you my Peter. You know what I'm saying?
Peter.
But you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Indeed. And I'm about to wrap this up shortly, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the daily light.
About what?
Daily source of light, our morning
Yes.
inspiration call. And
Man.
So we don't even know how many years we've been doing it. That's how it just become a part of us. But where do we see that going? How do we see that expanding and doing more with it?
Well, I know for me, I always share it with people and tell them that it's just a great way to add on to whatever else you're doing. It's 10, 15 minutes a day. And, what I tell people is, there's a lot of appearance of chaos, confusion in the world. You want to arm yourself with as much spiritual gear as possible. So before I even get on the daily source of light call every morning, except for Saturday and Sunday, but when I'm going to work every morning, I'm doing a few things before I even get on the call. You know what I'm saying? Just to get myself in order. But the daily source of light call, for people that are not doing anything, I tell them that's just a great entry. And some of my people start off on Friday, but then they start going to different days and whatnot. So for me, it's just sharing it with people, let them know that again, once you get on, it's every single day except Christmas. You can get on, you can get off, but know that this is available to you every single day, with the exception of Christmas. So just continue to share that. This year, I'm going to be posting more, leading up to the Fridays, of course, particularly, just to let people know, because the call is going, like, that's another thing. Like, I never know the numbers. I never know, how the call is going, none of that.
You got to learn how to log in, Server.
I don't think I want to learn.
I don't think you want to learn. Okay, all right.
I want to learn how to learn. And Djehuty, for real, and this is what I'm telling people, and I'm being very honest with people about what David Tavares is. Like, dude, I'm I'm not trying to do the extra anything. I'm trying to really.
But it's so simple, sir. It is so simple. It is literally, and you get to see.
I used to do it before, but right. but if I do it on my phone, I won't be able to see anything.
Yes, you will.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway,
but let me just say this to answer Imhotep's question.
Well, hold on. Let me just finish up. Sharing it with more people with no obligation, no expectation. But everybody that I'm talking to, I'm sharing that information because I truly believe, as I tell people, if it's something that's good for me, I'm sharing it with my people. Y'all can do whatever y'all want with it, but I'm gonna continue to share it with my people.
Well, one of the things that I do after each one, I put the scripture up and I post what the affirmation is, and I give the information. I would love to see that, repeated when you do your lesson. Let it be known what the lesson was. Let it be known where the lesson could be found. I don't know how many people have come on because of that. I think a few, but not many. I know what I'm about to do on Tuesday. It's so funny. Jesus said, a prophet is not recognized in his own hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the people that are around you that hear you every day. Oh, that's just Darren. That ain't no. That's David. That's Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my own household.
Right.
Especially. Yeah, especially Denise is hardly ever on the call, if ever. Roderick, Renee, my cousin Steve, Thomas, but not many people from the family is on the call. But Server, all three of us were on the call. Lethe said something on Thankful Thursday about the lens and clearing the lens.
Mm-hmm.
So after she said that, I was texting her during that going on. She's going to do the call on Tuesday.
Okay.
So I spread the word to the whole family. I spread the word telling them about Lethe.
Support Lethe, right.
Right. Now you get on the phone and you get some inspiration. Oh, they're doing this every day?
Right.
To come back.
Right. So, and people are like, what's the number? What's this? Some people from Antioch. When I go to speak in Antioch in April, I'm going to let them know about the Daily Source of Light call. We had some people call in from Antioch a few weeks ago, and they loved it. Called in for a couple of Thursdays for the Thankful Thursday. They haven't been around, but that's okay. What we have to do is stay consistent.
There you go.
And make them available to them.
Last two times I've been on, I actually took the audio.
I saw that.
And
how did you do that? Because I saw that as well. I was like, oh, see,
he used the login information that you don't want to use.
I might need to get it for that. I might need to get it for that.
And that's the way it continued for sometime long after that. That's the thing when you get three ministers together, they invariably don't know when to stop. But I want to conclude this, wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining in. Look forward to the Trinity of Truth, us bringing out some new stuff shortly. But in the meantime, keep checking for me on this channel, the Minister Imhotep channel on YouTube. Hit the like, subscriptions, notification, and please leave comments and share. I wanted to engage as a community, not just for you just to hear me in the one-way dialogue, but for us to go back and forth. Any of these things that you agree with, let me know, or things that you don't agree with, especially let me know so that we can have a conversation. Not trying to, as Minister Server said, convince, convict, convert, any of those things. Not going to coerce you to do anything, but just want to share different perspectives so that you can think a new thought. Minister Imhotep, and I am out. Peace, prosperity, out.